So we were actually at the same school, but we never really knew each other.
He was in that way famous to some extent, if I may say.
I was pretty much smitten from the first day that we met.
Tell us a bit more about your long-distance relationship.
I would definitely say it's been hard. I still recall the first meeting that he had with my parents.
I don't think people should expect also to have like maybe that one single moment of clarity in a relationship.
I like your confidence.
I was always confident. I think that's one of the things that you also like.
Hello and welcome to Love Handle, where we get unfiltered about love and relationships. Today we are so honored and grateful to have Souvik and Tanya joining us on this episode to open up about their love story and share the secrets to your successful marriage. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to be here.
Lovely to be on this platform.
So before we get started, can you introduce yourselves, please?
So I'm Tanya and I hail from Calcutta and I work with Boston Consulting Group. The area that I work on is very dear to me. I help protect Mother Earth from the perils of climate change.
So, hi, I'm Souvik. I'm from Calcutta as well. In fact, we are from the same school, but more on that later. Currently, I'm an associate director with Pepsi, and I've been in Delhi NCR for almost 8 years now, and 5.5 years of those, of course, with her.
Now you mentioned that you've been married 5 years and together for longer. Can you take us back to the time when you guys first met and tell us about how your love story unfolded?
Sure. So let me just take the lead on that. So we were actually at the same school a year apart. So she's a year junior to me. But we never really knew each other at school. We never really met. We never really had a thing, which is what a lot of people instantly think of. Mm-hmm. So for that, actually, I need to thank Mr. Zuckerberg and his algorithm. Because when I was new to Facebook, and this was when I was pursuing my master's in physics from IIT Bombay. So back then I was new to Facebook, and his algorithm sort of suggested her as someone I might know. So I sent out a friend request, and I didn't expect her to accept it because, again, never really knew. I was just sort of carpet bombing friend requests to all the profiles which came up, and she accepted. We got to chatting on Facebook and then on other different social media platforms as well. After a lot of pursuing, she decided to meet up with me. So I was sort of pursuing her from day one. And then it gradually over time developed into a relationship, and yeah, that's how we sort of met.
Yeah, and I think one thing which, of course, it's long. It's been several years, but what I think we've managed to do is, because we were never in the same city together, so it's always been long distance, and of course that had its own difficulties and everything. But I think the periodic meets which we used to do in those 10 years, we would actually plan minute to minute that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So, but those helped, I think that reserves some spice for after marriage as well.
It helped keep the mystery alive a little bit because we would just get to see each other once, maybe every 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So I want to hear your impressions, like when Souvik first reached out to you on Facebook. Like, what was your reaction? What were you thinking and feeling?
So one thing which he didn't include in his introduction is he's really good in academics, and he used to top the school. And I think he was in that way famous to some extent, if I may say.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, let me shell out the good things for you so you reciprocate later on as well. But so I definitely knew him, that this guy exists, but definitely we never spoke to each other. So when I received his friend request, I thought, okay, fine enough. I think he'll be an interesting guy to chat up with. And I was single at that point of time. So yeah. And I accepted it, and then we had really good chats. And soon after that, I also moved to IIT Kharagpur, and then hostel life, as you know, is all-nighters, and that's when we used to do a lot of catch-ups over chat, and that's when I realized that it's a nice chemistry to have. Of course, everything was all about friendship from my end at that point in time, but yeah, that's how my initial reactions were when I A, accepted, and B, of course, when a few years into the friendship, quote unquote.
So what changed? What made you take the plunge to go from friends to more than friends?
I definitely think I'll attribute it to time, because I, as a person, I just take a lot of time to even see long-lasting friendships, and relationship is of course a larger commitment. So I think when I started spending more time with him, I realized that there's a lot of similarities and commonalities. We have a lot of things to talk about in general, you know, quick trivia, little bits of music, and general, you know, academic stuff as well to some extent. So we used to exchange a lot of notes on that, and that started growing on me. That, you know, he started becoming my go-to person for any discussion, be it a late night one or otherwise. And I think, yeah, time made me realize that it could mean something else. And of course, once he proposed for marriage, actually, when I started thinking that, yeah, maybe it's time to really take it to the next level, and yeah, I think time helped it grow for me.
Wonderful. And what about from your end? What were the techniques you were using to kind of pursue Tanya?
I think just being there. I would largely attribute it to that. But look, I mean, I don't deny it to this day. I was pretty much smitten from the first day that we met. And even before that, when we were just sort of avatars on social media, even at that point in time, the conversations with her were extremely, I would say, engaging and interesting. So I think, obviously, those are two things that I always felt that those are the two must-haves in any relationship. You need to be at least physically attracted to the other person, and you need to be able to have really long conversations without getting bored with that person or anything that you want. So I was pretty much smitten from the beginning. And to be honest, even though she maintained friendship sort of I would say like a tag on it, but I think somewhere we both knew that it's heading towards a more long-term committed thing. Yeah.
I like your confidence.
I was always confident. I think that's one of the things that you also like.
Yeah, indeed. I think put it in the right words right now.
And how did you know that each other was the one? Was there a moment where you realized that this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with?
For me, I don't recollect having that one moment. Like I said, with time, it sort of happened. And of course, when you get some time, you start thinking that, can you have this kind of an equation with somebody else as well? So yeah, I had bits and pieces of those thought moments as well, individually when I'm reflecting. And that helped me understand. But I didn't have that one moment, that aha moment that, okay, this is the one, he's the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with. It just occurred very organically, yeah.
Same for me as well. I don't think there was one moment. I don't think people should expect also to have like maybe that one single moment of clarity in a relationship where you suddenly go, okay, this is that person. I don't think relationships probably turn out like that. It's what happens in a lot of movies. So we all like to believe it happens. But in my own experience as well, I think it's something which just grew over time immensely. And obviously, as I mentioned, it started off with a few factors, and then over time, I could see a lot of other really good values also that I wanted in my significant other. So in terms of being able to spend time with each other's families, in terms of a similar, I would say, career ambition, professional ambition for themselves. So a lot of things, of course, lined up. But they didn't line up at one go. They lined up gradually over time.
But for me, I did have criteria in mind that, whoever I'm going to spend the rest of my life with needs to tick the right boxes. And one of that was, of course, that whoever I, decide to take the plunge with needs to get approval from my parents. And I have always been a parent's pet, so definitely needed their buy-in, their blessings before I could actually make any commitment. And that worked very well with him. So I still recall the first meeting that he had with my parents at my home in Calcutta. And of course, I did a lot of prep work to make him, ready.
The claims of preparation are greatly exaggerated.
Is it?
Yeah, and that went very smooth. And at the end of that entire get-together, he came out smiling, and my parents were really happy about the fact that he's a guy who's very homely and kind of really gels well with the family. So it clicked. And that was also, like you were asking about moments, I think, that was one of the many moments probably which also made me realize that, okay, this ticks that massive box.
Yes. Family is very important when it comes to your life partner. And how were you feeling at that moment? Were you very nervous to meet them? Were you confident?
I was nervous. I mean, I was nervous even on the first day when we met. I was also nervous when I met her parents for the first time. I was also nervous when she met my parents for the first time. But I, of course,
and
never.
you were not there.
I was not. I was not even there when she met my parents actually for the first time because I was in my city of work. So, but anyways, back to that particular instance. So I was nervous, but I also felt like at the end of the day, it's about them getting to know me as a person and me getting to know them, and hopefully everything should align. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's not as if you're trying to put on some sort of a performance for anyone. So you're just trying to be your authentic, natural self, and hopefully people like it.
Before I move on to the wedding or the marriage, I do want to rewind because I'm so curious about your first meeting, right? You've been interacting on social media and you've generally gotten to know each other, but what was that first date like? Do you remember?
Yeah, very vividly.
So I remember everything from that first date, right down to what she was wearing, what I was wearing, everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Of course, I was nervous because I did manage to sort of convince her after a lot of persuasion that let's meet up. And in her head, I'm sure it wasn't really a date. In my head, it was. So, of course, I was trying to put on a good impression from the first get together. And when I saw her for the first time, of course, it just increased my nervousness because she was so beautiful. And that is actually which sort of increased my nervousness at that point in time, because I was like, I don't think she'll be impressed by me. So then, of course, the first probably I would say half an hour, 1 hour was a little awkward with me trying to figure out interesting sort of places to visit and what can I do to make this really engaging for her. At the end of the day, though, I think we played like a very silly game inside a cafe, and time just flew. I think we spent about 3 hours in that cafe, and I knew that at the end of the day, I wanted to meet her again. So I think, yeah, that is, of course, when I realized that our conversations which we had only up until then on social media could also translate well, in an in-person meeting as well. So yeah, I was looking forward to meeting her again.
Like he said, I think he was desperately trying to hide the fact that he was trying to impress, but it didn't work really. And you get to know, like I think women just get to know this. The guys, yeah, we always know, right? So yeah, but it was amusing to see the hard tries, and I played on, of course. I think when we came across or came past the first 30-40 minutes, and we started sort of getting into that friendship mode, I think then things started easing. And yeah, I remember this whole cafe incident very vividly. So we all have had bad dates, bad first dates, boring first dates, right? But this one, whether you call it a date or an outing with your friend, I think we ended up spending a long amount of time, and I had some 3-4 missed calls from my home as well, that where are you? Because I spent more amount of time outside than I was supposed to. So that is a clear marker of the fact that I was actually enjoying his company. And thereafter, I decided to, of course, then, like he said, that he was looking forward to meet again. So I sort of gave in. So we met. So that was one time when he was visiting Calcutta from Bombay. Yeah. So we met thrice. Yeah, we met thrice. And I think I fondly recall this one not incident, but on our third date, we spent about, I think, 3-4 hours at a bookstore, just talking about books. We both used to be avid readers. Right now, of course, due to paucity of time, that sort of reduced a little bit, but we used to love reading books, any type of book, and we connected instantly on that level. So after the third meetup or date, whatever we call it, I think that was again like your previous question, another layer to me thinking that, okay, this is interesting, let's see how it goes.
Tell us a bit more about your long distance relationship. How did you navigate that, and what did you do to sort of make sure the relationship remained strong?
Yeah, I think it's been hard. I would definitely say it's been hard. Hard to just stay on the same page at all points in time. In many relationships, you see that the initial part at least you spend together, but then you move on to long distance arrangement. I don't know which is the best fit, but for us, that wasn't the case. So we never really got to see the entire spectrum or entire picture of each other. Because we were never there together physically. So it was hard, but I think what works for both of us is we both love our space a lot. Even though it was long distance and, in long distance you tend to drop in more text messages, call up a couple of more times just to make sure that things are all right and everything. But he would quickly catch the signal that, I do need my space. So that worked in terms of understanding, even though being away, understanding that when she needs space or otherwise. But we used to use our meetups very intelligently, like I said, planned. Sometimes it helped, sometimes it made things boring as well, but we did our trial and errors. So we visited, I think, almost all cafes in Kolkata at that point in time, trying to figure out which is the best food and everything, and then did some quick things as well. Like, you done this entire movie screening, right? It used to be a very maiden concept in those years. Think about 10-15 years, but in between that spectrum. So yeah, those gestures, I think, kept it alive. I think the element of space was definitely something that it didn't allow us to fall apart at any given point in time.
Yeah, I think what sort of definitely helped us was that we didn't progress from being in a relationship in the same city and then moving on to long distance. I don't know if it would have made things better, if it would have made things worse. But for us, that was the pattern that we started with. So it may have been a bit easier for us to manage as well, if I just try and compare it to maybe other couples who are facing long distance after having stayed in the same city for a long period of time. So of course, for us, it was more a question of, we used to speak over the phone from time to time. We used to have text messages at that point in time, no WhatsApp yet. We used to connect over social media, but nothing was super, I would say, frequent or at any point of time made either of us feel sort of constricted that, okay, I need to check in with this person. It wasn't anything of that sort. So it was very organic. So definitely that. And of course, if you stay apart from some person and sort of start developing feelings for that person, then of course it makes the meetings something to look forward to even more. So, I mean, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I just wanted to add a couple of points to what he was saying, that I think, just to sum up, two things really helped or is probably going to help or helps any couple who's also in long distance but wanting to really make it work is patience, of course, which is reducing, I know, with every passing day with all of us and all gadgets, but I think that's crucial to sort of try and make it work. And the other thing is trusting your partner to do the right thing or almost the right thing at most points in time, or just believing in your partner even though he or she is away from you. These two organically we had, and it worked. Now when I reflect, I can think of some attributes like these which sort of probably helped in all of it coming together.
Now let's come to your married life. Each of you has remarkable careers and are building, your individual professional paths. In what ways do you feel like having a partner, having a spouse has enabled your professional development?
I think it has made a lot of difference, and I'll give you some examples. So, of course, for any professional decision, I tend to rely, of course, on my instincts for sure, but also on the instincts of the people who really matter to me. So when I was staying with my parents, so I used to value, I still value, and it's sort of a group work that we do when we have to take massive decisions at work, such as, job switches or even on a promotion or anything. So I used to take a lot of help from my parents to actually help me think through. And after getting married, and that it's just easy when you're sitting in a room with them, And when we got married, we shifted and we started staying together. I found the same comfort of having that same conversation with him. because I think because of two factors. One is, of course, he understands my ambition, where I want to reach, and is able to sort of also guide whether, that particular decision point, will it aid to my ultimate ambition or not. And sometimes you yourself get blinded when you're overclouded in your thoughts, right? So we've done that several times, and that's really helped me. And the other thing is, because even if we are not from the same fraternity or same area of work, but you understand the market, you understand the pulse. So it just helps to get that perspective, a very good reality check perspective from him. So I think the conversations that we have, even on work elements, is really helpful. The other thing I think which I find very refreshing is, all the frustrations at work, and being able to sort of just spell it all out with somebody is so much comforting at the end of the day. So I think we have very, very open conversations on these elements, and that helps us, at least for me, it just takes the stress element off of me.
Yeah, it's so important to have that sounding board, like a thought partner,
right,
to make things
right, and who can actually contribute really and understand your where you're coming from. Yeah.
Look, obviously, I'll answer this question in two parts. Right. The first is, I think, having a partner in general is something that I always sort of envision myself as being someone in a long-term committed relationship. So I think simply from my own mental well-being and emotional well-being, that security and that comfort is important for me, which translates into all aspects of life, including my professional life. So that is obviously there. Secondly, again, having a working partner who's on a similar journey herself, it's again, the sounding board element is extremely crucial for both partners. And so many times I've relied on her advice to handle softer workplace issues, which largely I would say remain similar across different industries, across different sectors. Workplace issues still tend to be broadly similar when you talk about them in terms of the human element. So I think again I rely on her for that a lot in terms of advice. And I mean, finally, I think what really works for both of us is that we went into this fully, aware of the ambitions which the other person had. So I think from that perspective also, it's sort of important to walk into a marriage or even a long-term committed relationship knowing what the other person wants and knowing what you want, because you have those expectations set up front, and then it just makes everything easier. So I mean, the only advice I would give anyone, honestly, if anyone asks, is that when it comes to a partner, either have someone who's super supportive 100% or don't have one. There's no middle ground for that.
Now I want to move over to some more warm and fuzzy type questions. Starting with, do you have a favorite memory that you guys have shared? I'm sure there are so many, but any standout moment that you felt like really represents your love?
There are several actually. Maybe you want to take a stab at that.
There are a lot. I think in terms of some of the most cherished memories that I have with her are actually from when we have been traveling. So I remember, I mean, if I describe the memory, it doesn't really amount to much, in the sense that we were both just laying down. It was a moonlit night, so it was a full moon night. We were at Langkawi, and we were staying at a beachside resort, and we were just laying in front of the infinity pool and overlooking the sea, and just the whole atmosphere and the whole vibe was so good. And I remember we stayed there together almost in complete silence for about 2 to 3 hours, just holding hands, and we didn't really speak much. But that's one of my most cherished memories with her, because remember that evening again super vividly. It was one of our first trips. It was actually our second trip that we took together. So the freshness of that also maybe it just helped set it in my mind. So that's one of the memories, of course. Plenty more,
agree.
of course.
Yeah, now that you talk about it, I definitely, that's been one very, very different moment. And we both love to travel, and one of my memories that I can think of also hails from one vacation, and that was actually a honeymoon. We made this trip to Seychelles. Because I love to travel, but then that was the first vacation that I was taking with him. So I was a little nervous whether our choices will match, and you have so many things to decide when on a vacation, right? Like, do you sync up your clothes, what kind of food you like, and then what kind of day plans you'll make and all. And I think that there was one moment where I just where we were just matching our plans, like our choices, and everything was bang on, like 100% match, and that's very difficult to make happen. So I think that one memory it just got etched in my mind, because I just realized that okay, the partner that I've chosen is actually a mad traveler whose choices align with me, and that's very important for me. So I think that's one memory that really comes to my mind.
What is your favorite quality in your husband?
His ability to get the pulse and give me space. Like I was mentioning that space has been very important for me throughout my life, and having that person when you need him or her the most, but that person also not being really all the time, really giving you your space as well. That's very important for me, to be able to even bring my 100% to the relationship, and he does that very well. So even when on days when I'm like super flushed with work, and I really need that 10 minutes or even 1 hour of just my own time, probably at 12 in the night, when I finally get done with work on that day, he would want to spend 30 minutes just having a conversation, etc., which is a norm, which is what we do generally. But on specific days, I still want that space for me, but I'll not spell it out that okay, so I do need my space. So that doesn't happen, but he just gets the pulse that let's give her that room to sort of self-heal and come back. And that's very refreshing for me, because I really yearn for that space. So yeah, definitely.
Sensitive to your needs.
Very sensitive, yeah. And another thing is my job requires me to travel a lot. So there are weeks when I'm just not here. And when you start living together, trying to bring things together, there's so many elements to look at, right? So the home front management is something that I think he loves doing. Of course, I would like to believe you do.
I do.
Yeah, and that shows. But he can very independently manage the house without me being here for even months. And it's so nice and warm to really come back to a house that's smelling well, and it's all clothes are nicely tucked away, and there's home cooked food. So I think that's also one quality that I think I'm very grateful for, actually. thank God for that. But yeah, that's another element that I really like about him.
I'll thank my hostel days for that. I think that's where I sort of developed the habit there, because I personally also don't like a messy household. It just, I think, saps away a lot of my energy if I see a lot of mess lying around, if I see a lot of like dirt, grime, or things unorganized, disheveled. So in general, it's something that I enjoy doing as well. So yeah, it's lucky for her.
What is your favorite quality in Tanya?
There are a lot of qualities, but I think I'll choose one that has probably made me a better person, which is, I think, her penchant for sort of giving back to society. I think that is one element of my life which I hadn't really given much thought to earlier. Before we started staying together. It was mostly about me, my family, my friends. But I think that lens that we should, try to contribute back to society in whichever way we can. There are multiple avenues, multiple forums. I think that is something that she has sort of helped me, develop that aspect of my life. So I thank her for it. I think it has made me a better person. It has also made me more thankful for the privileges that, both of us have had. And so now any chance to sort of get, give back to society is something that I look forward to. So that is the quality that I actually cherish in her the most.
Yeah, we like interacting with kids at an orphanage a lot. So we've recently started doing that last 1 year.
Yeah, so
because our time calendars were also not matching and all of that, but we've just consciously decided that this is something we have to do. And that the amount of joy that gives is unparalleled. So I'm so glad that you enjoyed the process as well.
It's a lovely bonding activity as well.
Yeah, it
is.
Now it's time for a fun game where we can quiz your knowledge of one another. So Souvik, you mentioned that you remember the first date very vividly.
Yeah.
Tanya, I want to ask you, what was he wearing on the first date?
I think a black t-shirt and denims very similar to the color he's wearing now. Yeah. Is that right? I think you don't remember.
It wasn't a t-shirt, but it was black.
Yeah, it was black.
It was a shirt, but it's okay. It was black. Black part is.
And what was she wearing?
She was wearing a black t-shirt as well. There was something written on the t-shirt. I think it was either honey or something else. So she wore a lot of graphic t-shirts at that point of time. So it was one of those. It was one of her favorite t-shirts as well. Yeah, and denim as well.
Yeah.
She's a big fan of denim in general. So
what is his favorite restaurant in Kolkata?
I think it's a cafe, and we used to hang out there a lot. It's called Wise Owl, and they have fabulous coffee and sandwiches.
yeah.
What is Tanya's version of an ideal vacation?
It's very easy.
If there are 3 days, she'll chill by the beach side. It'll obviously be a beach place. There's no other place. So she'll chill by the beach side one day. She'll shop for one day, and then one day will be for visiting all the places. So that's the ideal vacation. And then of course try local food about half of the time, and try food which is going to be as per to your palate and taste the other half of the time.
Who said I love you first?
Yeah.
I did. It's not even.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
What is something that she does not leave the house without?
A phone.
Yeah.
Who organizes date nights?
It's a combination. Yeah, I would do say a 60-40, 60 being me. But yeah, we do it. Yeah.
Who tells better jokes?
I claim that I am the one with a better sense of humor, but I think she claims otherwise.
No, I claim that I don't endorse it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I crack better jokes, but yeah, I think I'll give it to you this time. Yeah.
Cool.
What color are her eyes?
So it's actually brownish, but so if there's sunlight on it, it'll become a more sort of hazily brown, but without sunlight on it, it'll be a much darker shade of brown.
Setting high standards. Yeah.
All right, that was all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for joining us for this really insightful episode. It was such a pleasure learning about your story, and I'm sure our audience will really enjoy this. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more such content, do be sure to hit subscribe and share this with anyone you think would benefit. Verona, Matchmaking Reimagined.
সোনার পালঙ্কের ঘরে লিখে রেখেছিলেম দারে যাও পাখি বলো তারে সে যেন ভোলে না মোরে সুখে থেকো ভালো থেকো মনে রেখো এ আমারে বুকের ভেতর নোনা ব্যথা চোখে আমার ঝরে কথা এপার ওপার তোল পার একা যাও পাখি পাখি বলো তারে, সে যেন ভোলে না মোরে। সুখে থেকো ভালো থেকো, মনে রেখো এ আমারে।